Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the live stream. It has been so long since I did a live stream, so I'm really happy. Let's let the clock go off. There we go. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys for a Christmas special, a holiday special on the last Saturday just before Christmas, to catch up and let you know what's going on here, and also then just to chill over the next hour. So I've got my Christmas jumper, I've got some mulled wine, which I literally just blew up in the microwave by accident. I put it in for way too long, and so I lost half the contents because it bubbled over the top. But as you can see, can you see? Yeah, there we go. It is steaming quite a lot. So there we go. So I'll give you a brief update on things that are happening here, and then we will go in just to sort of a Q&A, a chat. If you do want to ask questions, please put them in capital letters. It's more easy for me to see them. And also Liz Zorab, our wonderful moderator, is here. So she's going to flag stuff up to me as well, if and when I need it. So there's two main things that I need to say. The first is thank you for all the comments about lovely little Beetle. She is fine. There was no adverse reaction to those raisins. It was really a case of the human with knowledge and Google freaking out while she was totally fine. But then I always think it's a little bit better to freak out and then be okay than to not freak out and then something awful happens. So definitely it was a good thing about that. The second thing is, if you saw my Instagram today, you will know that beautiful Barry White, the silky cockerel, departed us today. He has always been a bit of an arse and a bit of a biter, but he just died. So he was about 3 years old. I fed him this morning. He was totally fine. I went back to see him later, and he literally must have died minutes, if not seconds, before I got there, because he was flapping around and doing the post-death nervy flap and twitch. So I don't know what happened to him at all. It's very sad because I don't know why he died or what happened, and he was relatively young and he was very virile. He was a very virile young cockerel who fathered lots and lots of babies, so actually he'll be sadly missed. He is in Sard's taxidermy freezer, so at some point hopefully I will get him taxidermied and have him forever as my first ever silky cockerel. So that's Barry is obviously departed. Now the only run-on problem from that is, what am I going to do about the toasty marshmallows? Because he was the dad. So I have my toasty marshmallow daughters, but I no longer have my main male breeder. So I don't know what's going to happen to that line. I do have 4 growers, one of which may be a cockerel. So it's possible that I can breed the cockerel back to the cockerel's aunts. So I might be able to carry on that line. The other thing I'm thinking is we've still got Bruce. Now Bruce is a beautiful cockerel from last year that was a Danver silky cross. He has the silky feathers, he has a silky walnut comb, but he has some coloration from the Danvers in him. But that might actually be really, really nice to breed back into the silkies and see what colours we get. Remember, I'm not breeding for show standard, I'm breeding for kind of aesthetics and what they look like. So I might give that a go in the new year too. So they were kind of my two main catch-ups. As I say, I'm glad to get back to the live stream because I haven't been live streaming for ages because work has just been manic, but it's good to hang out with you guys tonight. So let's see who is in the chat. So Liz is here, Robert's here. It's good to see another live stream as well, Robert. I agree, because I've missed you guys and catching up. James Cookson's here, Charlie is here, Best of Guitar Music is here. It is the 22nd of December. It's fantastic. The winter solstice was yesterday, so hopefully that means day length is now going to start getting longer over here in the Northern Hemisphere. Foul Channel is here. What a great name. AJ is here. Deanne Martin, she says, hello from across the pond. We lost a Sukiru this week, but he was very sweet and we'll miss him. The budgie babies are precious. They are so sweet. I literally just got them out and had a little hold of them, and they've got white on their wings, white on their head, and white on their primary tail feathers, but there is a little bit of blue coming through. So I really, really can't wait to see what they do in terms of colouring up, because it's going to be fab to see what colours they come out. Because obviously last time, the first clutch, Sunny mated with Io, and so all their babies were pied green and yellow. And then Io sadly died, and then I think Sunny must have mated with Pluto, because the that little splay leg chick came out, and he was a yellow-faced blue. And then this time, obviously, she's actually mated with a yellow-faced blue. So we'll find out what those colours are. But I will keep you updated. If you're on Patreon, I do actually pop photos up throughout the week, maybe like once a week throughout the week, so you can see. And then I'll obviously update on Instagram and Smallholding Diaries as well. Best guitar music is from Slovenia. Cool, welcome to have you. It's nice to have you. And then Charlie John says, have you got any breeding plans for next year? So, as I was just talking about with the Silkies, I'm probably going to introduce Bruce to the Silkies and possibly try and breed his colour line into some of the, so cross in with the white toasty Silkies and see what comes off in terms of offspring. I'll do some frizzles from the bottom coop, from Skeksis, and then some of my Polands, so I'll probably do some Poland frizzles. I'll do the Danvers as always, and I still need to find some Ixworth girls to cross with my my lone Ixworth boy. So it'd be nice to see what they do, because obviously he is the lone survivor from that fox attack last year. So hopefully I want to obviously carry on his genes, because he is the original from the original Eddie Ixworth. So we'll see how they go. Fowl Channel says, can I ask, what area are you from, and are there any poultry auctions your way that are worth checking out? I'm in the West Midlands. So I am down in Essex. So there is a poultry auction really, really close to me, which is Setha. So it's a South Essex Fur and Feather Auction. I think that's what it stands for. I think it's the second Sunday of every month once it gets going in the year. It's not a great auction. It's quite a good auction to sell at, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a great auction to buy at, because it's kind of the dregs. The quality isn't really there. But if you want to sell, but also obviously you're in the West Midlands, I wouldn't come all the way down. There's another really good one that we went to, which is where we bought the pheasants from, in Suffolk. I can't remember the name of that one. I will try and find it and link it in the description after this. And then Colchester Market on a Saturday. I haven't been to that one yet, but for work I'm going to go and pick up some guinea pigs and rabbits in the new year. So I'm going to pop up to the Colchester Market. That's every Saturday, and that's another feather and fur auction. So you get all sorts, from guinea pigs to turkeys, and from mice to swans, I guess. So we'll just go and see what they're like. But it's exciting to see. Charlie says, are you getting a drake for your ducks? Eventually, yes. At the moment, as you've probably realised from watching the old channel, ducks and chickens, guys, they don't mix very well. So I probably don't want to get any more ducks at this stage, because the other problem I have is, obviously I'm in an urban setting, and so I have limited space, which means I have to limit the number of birds I can have. And at the moment, because the day length is so short, the daylight hours are so short, I go to work when it's dark and I come back when it's dark, which means the guys from the poultry yard can't actually come in the poultry yard unless I'm here, because of fox attacks. Which means the ducks then have to stay inside, so they don't always have access to their pond, which means they just run amok with the water drinkers. So that's the long story of saying I probably will get a drake, but it won't be until we move to the farm, so that I can have, like, they can have all this area and they can have pasture and grass and stuff to run around on, because it'll be a lot better for them than trying to breed them and keep them in the small confines of this urban garden. And Liz said, did you get any guinea fowl this year? Yes, I did. I had my hatch. I had my chick check, and I hatched my 3 guineas, and they turned into 2 boys and a girl, and it's been really successful. The boys are mega quiet. The hen is quite loud in terms of ongoing vocals. So guinea fowl, as you probably all know, are really loud anyway, and they are especially used for burglar alarms, because if they see something new, they go nuts. So the boys do still make that nuts noise, but because they were brought up around my dogs, around the cat, with the other chickens, they're fairly used to what's around here, so they don't tend to go nuts very often. The hen, on the other hand, makes constant vocal callings, constant, and so that does get a bit tiresome. I don't know whether it's because she's the only hen, or I don't know whether it's because she's maturing and she's calling to the males. The males don't tend to call back to her, so I'm wondering whether it is because she is the only hen and she wants a little group or a little harem of guinea fowl to be with, and she'll quieten them down, because the ones at work don't make that much noise at all. And obviously they're very used to people being all over the place, so they don't make their loud noises, but they don't make many ongoing daily vocalizations either. So it's something I need to investigate again. But again, I don't want to add too many to the flock, because obviously I'm stuck with the room. So I'd rather kind of grow that flock when I've got more room up at the farm. Liz says, ours started their song today. They're really loud. Liz, have you got guinea fowl? I must have missed this. I knew that you got turkeys, but I didn't realise you'd got guinea fowl. They are super loud when they start their song. Aha, two. Oh, well, it'll be interesting then to talk with you, Liz, about boys versus girls. Because obviously with my boys, it's my boys that are quiet, and it's my hens that are loud. So it'll be interesting to see if the same is true for you when they grow up and mature and you know who's who. James says, what plans do you have for the pheasants? So the pheasants are just going to be like an ornamental pheasantry. So we'll breed them and then they'll be sold basically to put into the pet trade for people that want ornamental pheasants on their grounds. So I think, yeah, that's kind of the idea. We've got the Reeves, so we've got the pair of Reeves pheasant. We had that boy, and then Eve is now out there, and she's doing really, really well. And then we still have our Reeves pheasant. He's actually just down there. So he's still in the house at the moment. He's mega good as well. So we'll be pairing him up next year. So we'll have the two Reeves pheasant. And then again, in the future, we aim to expand the ornamental pheasantry. So it includes Reeves, silvers, goldens, tragopans, peacock pheasants, all sorts. So there's a really, really nice mix of ornamental breeds. And I would like to do ornamental ducks and possibly swans as well. So there's kind of a whole waterfowl pheasantry situation going on. Deanne says, have you ever tried predator lights? They scare foxes and other predators away by solar powered flashing red lights. They work well keeping chickens safe. I haven't tried that. I don't know how well they'd work here, because obviously we're in an urban environment, so the foxes are bold to say the least. They don't really get frightened by very much. I can't imagine them being frightened by a light, but they could be. I have got a security light in the back of my house, and there's been many times where that's gone off, and I've looked out the bedroom window and the fox has just been sat on top of the aviary without a care in the world, even though the light's turned on, just sits there and stares at me. But it might be worth trying it, especially if it's a red flashing light. It might put them off. So I'll definitely try that. At the moment, it's just kind of prevention that I'm focusing on. Obviously, I don't want to be getting home from work at 6, half 6 when it's dark, and there's been like a good 2 hours dark length there for the foxes to go straight into the coop and take those birds. So at the moment they're just being kept shut in. They've got more than enough room in their shed, and then obviously on nice days when I'm home they come out. But it's kind of no different to lockdown, the DEFRA avian flu lockdown a couple of years. They're kind of just in there, they've got their food, they've got their water, they've got plenty of space to move around, but I'm just keeping them safe. Erica's little Welsh garden can vouch for Liz. They are very noisy. Yeah, they are quite noisy. But I do find that mine generally are a little bit quieter than everybody else's, apart from the hens. Aloa, is that how you say it? Or Aloa? If I may ask, how did you get the farm? How big is it? Do you own or rent it, and does it have a house? I'd love to move into a small holding, but none for me for less than 700,000. Yeah, so small holdings or small farms are mega expensive. So the farm, I'm very lucky, is in the family. So my great granddad bought the farm, and my granddad moved there in 1914, I think, and he herded the pigs up the road, to the farm. And then it stayed in my family ever since. My granddad died in 1999, I think, sometime around that time. It passed to my dad, but my dad had no interest in farming. So at that time, the farmhouse and most of the outbuildings and the front field, which is about 3 to 4 acres, was sold as a small job lot and bought by a really, really nice couple that live in Stoke Newington in London. And he is a theatre designer, so he does sets and theatre designs and carpentry for the West End shows. So he bought those buildings with a view to moving there, realised they were so dilapidated he'd have to spend a lot of money, so he's turned them into holiday cottages, and they're stunning. So what I'm left with is about 35 to 40 acres of land, which kind of, so you've got your farmhouse and stuff in the middle, and then this land kind of wraps around it. But we still have the access road, and it's got the pit, and it's got the pasture, and it's got little bits of woodland. But it has no house, and but it does have a barn. So we're aiming to apply to change the permits on the barn to put a house there. So it's not a quaint, lovely old barn that we can just make into a house, because it's basically just a Dutch barn with a few uprights and asbestos wriggly tin roofing. So it would have to get pulled down, but it has got a concrete foundation, and it does. I think we would get permission to put a house there. So that's kind of the aim. But yeah, I was very lucky that it is within the family already. The thing we're currently going through is how to switch it, because it's currently in my dad's name, so it came to my dad from my granddad. And obviously now we're trying to get it into my name without it having to be forced through like capital gains tax and stuff. So we're currently going through proper agricultural solicitors to value the land and to make sure it can be passed to me with as little financial fallout as possible. Because if they leave it to the inheritance, then it'll get taxed like crazy. Or we have to try and do it without getting capital gains tax. Now, I think there's a little loop in the law about agricultural land, and if you're passing it on to spouses or dependents, there's no capital gains. But again, we're going through the course of that, talking to the proper solicitors who know their stuff. So hopefully it'll all work out. It'll be in my name soon, and then as soon as it's in obviously our name, Sard and I's name, we can then start building. Because obviously we can't build a house on there when it's not in our name, because then the inheritance tax would be an absolute nightmare on it. Yes, it was really, really lucky. And it was also very nice, because for me, it's very nostalgic going back up, because I've got all these memories of being a kid on the farm. And the other really nice thing is the guy that bought, or the couple that bought the farmhouse are lovely. Really, really lovely. Whenever we come, they've basically said, whenever you're up, you're welcome to come on into the yard and look around. If we're here but our holiday guests aren't, you're welcome to come into the houses that we've done up and look around. You know, I'm very much, it's your land now, but you bought it, it's your land. He's planted the front field as an orchard, and I remember I said to him, oh, it'll be, you know, it's nice that you've planted up as an orchard. And he said, oh, well, you're welcome to walk around it. And I said, well, I don't want to be presumptuous because it's your land now. And he said, and he replied with, well, it's more your land than mine. And I was thinking, that's really nice, because actually it's not. In the eyes of the law, that is your land. But he was kind of, you grew up here, you can walk around any time. And I think it will actually be really nice when we do live there. Because, as I say, they're really, really nice. They like a good drink as well, which is always rather lovely, especially as they are growing the orchard to make cider. So on-site homemade cider. It might beat this mulled wine, which is really nice. Has anybody else got mulled wine at the moment? Or a Christmas jumper on? Or Christmas music, which I can't play because of YouTube copyright. So if you've got Christmas music, please tell me what you're playing. Erica's Little Welsh Garden said, when you were a child, did you always think that's going to be my home one day? Sometimes, when I was a really little kid, I used to draw out a map of the farm and basically turn it into a zoo. So the garden pond was going to be where the hippos lived. I was going to have giraffe and zebras in the backfield, and I was basically going to turn it into a zoo. Then I grew up and became a teenager, and I grew up in rural, surrounded in rural countryside. So London's lights called to me. So I think when I was a teenager, I was more ready to disappear into the wild urban jungle. But then it only took me like maybe 2 years of living in London to realise I want out. I do not want to be here for the rest of my life. And I think it's probably only at that point that I started thinking realistically I could move back there and apply for planning permission and try and get a house. So yeah, it's kind of up and down wherever my mind was, how I was maturing. Liz says she has a hideous Christmas jumper with 2 robins on the front of it in a strategically embarrassing place. Oh, why can't we see this? I really want to see this jumper now. I'm thinking you're probably saying these little robins are here, perhaps? That I really want to see. Liz, I think you should wear it in your next video so we can see this lovely jumper. Let's see who else is here. Charlie said, can you do an update on all of your animals and a bit about them in one video? I really should, because quite a bit's changed this year. So yes, I will. I hope you're also liking the new kind of vlog things more. When it came to trying to do specific videos on a Friday, obviously the winter, there's not a vast amount to do. And I felt like I was starting to cover stuff that I'd already done. So I'm trying to do more of a kind of a Friday vlog, covering basically daily chores here, what I'm doing, what I'm up to. But I can definitely do a video moving from one animal to the next to kind of show you what we've got here, because a lot has changed. We've got more stuff, we've got less stuff. I would say we've got more variety now, but less perhaps of each. And Elisa from Moat Cottage is here. Hello from down under. Hello, Jeff and the Brimwood community. Despite it being in the high 30s, I will be making mulled wine, but no jumpers. I think we will let you off on that jumper front, because obviously, yes, you are mega hot. And I saw one of your videos the other day that you were saying you're not even kind of in the hot season yet, but it's ridiculously hot already. So stay cool, please. We don't want you frying up. And Charlie just says yes, that would be awesome. Yeah, so I would definitely, and obviously, so I've got the pheasants now, I've got the rabbit, so I've got Ralph, I've got Mr. Grumbles, I've got obviously the birds upstairs, and then I've got the chicken coops. And obviously this year we expanded from just having chickens and quail to having the ducks and the guinea fowl on top of that. And were the pheasants this year? Or did we start the pheasants last year? No, we started the pheasants this year, didn't we? Yeah, because I was going to rescue one from work and then he ended up getting killed. Yes, so the pheasants as well. So it was definitely this year. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, it was. Falchana said, would love to see a video of the tour of the land of the farm and the different areas and how you're thinking and planning things. I would definitely try and do that. One of the downsides of working at this public farm and becoming the livestock manager is I've had so little time to get off to my own land. I haven't actually had more than 3 days off in a row since February. So I've got several days over Christmas off, which is nice. So I'm going to try and get up to the farm at some point over the next couple of weeks, depending on weather. And I'll try and do a film like that and walk around and take you through what my ideas was. But I will say that YouTube is a wonderful place, because my original plans have greatly changed since joining YouTube, building the community with you guys, and also learning off people. So originally I was just gonna, stick with the fields that are currently there and fence them and just put animals in them. Now, however, having watched people like Justin Rhodes and various other homesteaders over in the States, and people like John I can never say his second name, John Sukosvich. That's probably really wrong. I'm sorry, John. But having watched them and seeing all the pasture-based stuff, I very much want to do rotational grazing with animals. So it will no longer be, here's a field, plonking animals in it. It'll be very much be like, here's a field, this forms the basis of my boundary, and then I'm going to rotate across or perhaps in a circular pattern. And I very much want to intermingle species. So I want to do cows and sheep in the same field because the cows eat the long grass and the sheep eat the short grass. And then you move them on, and then you bring the chickens in behind them to eat the cow pats and eat the fly eggs and things to keep your parasite load down. Using lots of natural medicines. So before, obviously, I grew up in a world with my grandfather where it was just shoving antibiotics into things, shoving wormers into things. And actually now I don't want to do that at all. I want to avoid as many antibiotics as possible. I want to use natural wormers, so things like goat willow and stuff as a natural wormer rather than worming things and then them building resistance to worms. So yeah, so I really do want to do a video and take you guys around. I may have to cut it into several sections because otherwise it'll just be mega long. But yeah, it's definitely a plan to go up there and take you on a little journey. Danny says, hello, sorry I'm late. That's okay, Danny. It's nice to have you here. Liz said, I hope the brambles didn't all grow back over the summer after you cleared so many of them. I know. I really hope that too. But I'm hoping, it was such a dry summer and we did cut them really low. So even if they have grown back, it should be a simple case of just topping them off again. Now I'm thinking in my mind I'm going to go back and it's going to be a nightmare. But no, I'm sure it'll be much better. I know when we cleared the top of the lookout last year, when we went back the following year, having not been for a few months, they hadn't actually done too much growth. And it was relatively easy to chop them all back again. So hopefully it will be all right. Erica says, how far is the farm from where you live now? So sadly, it's like average of a 2-hour drive away. So it's a 4-hour commute, hence why we literally cannot really do anything. If it was, can you see him? Elijah? Excuse me. Yes, I see you. Come on. Go on, shoot. This is why Elijah is not always allowed out, because he loves trying to eat my plants. Yeah. I can't believe that. Well done. Yes, so it's a 4-hour commute, which obviously means there's no way on earth we could keep livestock there. If it was like an hour away, potentially I could start to do stuff. Because potentially I could go every weekend and it wouldn't be that far away. And I could start to do pheasant pens, for instance. But yeah, it's just too far at the moment, sadly. I can't believe Elijah just jumped up and ate the plant, but almost on cue, so that was quite good actually. Right there. He loves this one. This one, I've just completely forgotten the name of these plants. If you remember, can you tell me? This one he doesn't get, so this one's really nice. I love the foliage colour on this. And this one he doesn't tend to get at because it's nearer the window, but this green one bears the brunt, and you can see this whole side here is where he's eaten it off. But he doesn't even eat it. He just picks them and then drops it on the floor, which is even more annoying, because at least if you're going to pick some leaves to eat them. Don't just throw them all over the floor. So in other news, at the farm, so my job has been crazy busy getting everything pregnant. I think you tend to think of after the harvest is done, sort of farm life is finished until the new year, but obviously you've got to get things pregnant. So it's been go. The sheep are all pregnant now, the goats are all pregnant now, the sheep are due to start lambing on the 16th of February, so that's going to be a crazy few weeks. Lambing them, and of course then you have all the pre-lambing stuff to do as well. So what are you dogs doing? There he is. There's a blooming pheasant down there now, just down there. Yeah, so at the moment, so there's all the pre-lambing stuff. So Pre-lambing about a month to 6 weeks in advance. You want to start thinking about doing their worming, doing their vaccinations, so they can pass it on in utero to the lambs. So Monday, so not tomorrow but the day after, we're doing a load of vaccinations of our sheep, and then we'll be starting to get the lambing barn ready. So, and then we'll be lambing obviously for that week in February, and then after lambing finishes, we'll be straight onto vaccinating the lambs, and then doing like events for visitors. And then at Easter, we'll be straight onto thinking about stuff for Easter. So the goats that we're going to be kidding at Easter, we're going to be having rabbits popping at Easter, rabbit babies coming at Easter, that is, by popping, and all sorts. So it's been really, really crazy busy. Danny says, one of my original quail goats died today. I'm really, really sorry. It's horrible when your original animals die, because they're like your first ones that become your beloveds. So it's really horrible. So I'm sorry about that, Danny. Foul Channel says, what goat breeds do you have at work? We have a mix. So we have a couple of pure Anglo-Nubians. We did have an Angora, but sadly she died earlier this year. She was 8, I think. So she died earlier this year. And then we have some kind of pygmy crosses. Most of our goats are crosses. We have a Boa Billy, we have a Cross Billy, and we have a Toggenburg Billy. And then we have a couple of lovely Anglo-Nubian girls. And then the rest of our girls are kind of crosses with just what we've got. Obviously, in the future, when I have the farm, I'm going to have specific breeds, and I'm going to try and stick to breed types. But here, because we're a public-facing farm, we're trying to teach people about different goats. So we have a variety of pure breed adult goats, but then when it comes to mating them, we don't always have the same, the same breeds, male and female. So there's a big mix of goats there. Liz says, be careful of sheep pen panels this year. No more black fingernails. I know, that was the damn pigs. But yes, I'll be very, very careful. And these fingernails, we're going nowhere near pinching panels, especially where there are pigs concerned. Danny is saying she is getting her goats in the new year. That's really, really exciting. I love goats. They're so cool. What goats are you getting, Danny? I literally can't wait to get goats because they're just the best foragers ever. And they, like Liz was saying about those brambles earlier, they will just go into a bramble patch, especially if you've already gone in and topped everything and it's just the new soft bramble growth coming through. They will just go through and eradicate that, which is amazing. So they're really, really good at stripping stuff back. So you're getting Anglo-Nubians are, I love them with their big ears. I love the shape of that ear. It's like that shape. It's lovely. I can't wait. Please, please, please update pictures on Brimwood Farm community group on Facebook so we can see them, because that'd be really exciting. And also, obviously, Danny also has her own YouTube channel, so please make sure you pop them onto your YouTube channel so we can see the arrival. PO 666-100 says, are you planning more live streams in the future? I am. I really, really miss them. I had a blast when we used to do them every Saturday. And the only reason I kind of dropped out was because I worked for myself for 15 years. And so I could kind of factor in all my YouTube stuff in and around my work schedule. And then I went and got off this job, which was only supposed to be a part-time 2 or 3 day a week job, just to earn a little bit of cash. Then I realised I was quite good at it, and then work realised I was quite good at it and gave me a promotion, and obviously I became full-time, so now I work between 50 and 60 hours a week at this job. And then so obviously my body just was not ready to be able to come home after a day at work and then sit down and do live streams. So, but after like 10 months, 11 months of doing it, my body's finally adjusted. So I'm hoping that in the new year, we can go back to doing our weekend Saturday live streams. It may be a little bit earlier so that I can do it from 9 till 10, and then I can go to bed if I've got to go to work the next morning at 6 a.m. But yeah, I am intending on doing more because it's a good way to catch up with you guys, especially when I possibly don't have time, especially due to the darker daylight hours. Don't have time to go and film loads of videos. At least the live streams give me a chance to update you with what's going on. Erica says, maybe I need to get goats for my woodland then. Yes, they'd be great in a woodland. They would be really, really good foragers, especially if you want brambles bringing down bracken, bringing down goats would be really, really awesome at that. Foul Channel says, I also work on a farm park and we've stuck to one breed and they are pygmy goats and have 2 of my own. Well, that's really cool. Now, I have heard that pygmy goats are a devil to breed from because they're small and the nannies have a small pelvis. Is that right? And so it's harder for them to give birth. So far, I've kind of erred on the side of caution and stayed away from them and stayed with some of the bigger breeds. But I do want to get pygmy goats because people love pygmy goats. So I would like to get some pygmy goats in the future. But if we have got this problem with them being slightly more difficult to breed from, I might just get a load of wethers that people can come in and enjoy rather than breeding nanny goats. And we're still on goats. So Danny Little Barn Farm says 2 are 6 weeks pregnant. That's so cool. So you're going to get 3 goats and you'll have 2 with kids. So I'm assuming you're planning to milk. Are you going to orphan the lambs off, or are you going to milk the nannies in the morning and then put the kids back with them and for the rest of the day and then separate them at night? That'd be really, really cool. I think that's what I'm going to try and do at work this coming year. Susie is here. Happy Christmas, Susie. Thank you for coming by. It's lovely to see you. Mark says, I'm hoping to get more chickens next year. Will they be okay with my old chickens, which are a year old, or will they fight? They will be absolutely fine as long as you integrate them properly. So I would quarantine anything that comes in, always. And then I wouldn't just chuck them straight in. It depends how many you have. If you've got a big area, and say you've got 3 old chickens, and you're bringing in 3 newer chickens, then you could probably just dunk them in. Never dunk 1 chicken in with a big crowd, and never dunk 2 chickens in with a big crowd because they will peck on each other. They need to establish that new pecking order. And if you only put 1 or 2 in, then what happens is you've got 2 against the whole flock, and then they really get pecked to death. It's better to give them more equal measures, or if you're putting fewer numbers in, put them into a more massive flock, because then I find that you'll have 1 or 2 at the top of the pecking order that really want to make sure that newbie is right at the bottom, but there's enough other individuals for your newbies to get in. So I would say it'll be totally fine. Quarantine them and then introduce them slowly. You can do side-by-side coops so they can start to see each other. There will be quarreling initially when you put them in, and if it's too bad, you can just take them apart again and then side-by-side the coops again until they get used to it. But mostly, chickens are all right after a few hours of sort of battling out their pecking order. They're normally fine. Alternative Smallholding is here and says, sorry I'm late. You're not late, it's fine. You can pop in whenever you like, as long as you've got a Christmas jumper on and some mulled wine. But that's not prerequisite. You don't have to have that. But it's lovely to see you here this evening. And Danny says, so the baby goats are due mid-April. That's super exciting. I'm trying to think when mine are due. Easter. I think the end of the first week of Easter. So around the same kind of time, I think. They were bred on the 16th of November. That's when the Billy went in. The Billy did 2 girls almost immediately, and then the rest of he's been doing over the past few weeks. So, yeah, they're going to be spaced out. Whereas with the sheep will all come at once because we sponged the sheep. So we basically regulated exactly when they ovulated, and then they were all bred within the space of a few hours. So they should all start giving birth at the same time, which means it'll be a crazy couple of days, but they should all then come out, and then you haven't got a long lambing period, which I think is probably more tiring than a short frenetic lambing period, because we'll just be knackered from those few days, but we won't have to extend it. Liz says, when are you putting the incubators going on next year? I don't know yet. January, February time? I'm very keen not to have tons of chicks in the house. So I really want to, when I hatch them this time, I really want to make sure that I can put those chicks outside as quickly as possible. The other thing is, I'll be doing quite a lot of hatching at work as well. So I will get my hatch fix from work, potentially, and then not hatch as much at home next year, and maybe not even put my incubators on at home until March, April time. The pheasant is just attacking the dogs. Come on, get down, please. The pheasant is on the dogs. Oh God. Yeah, so I won't be doing that probably till March, April time. But at work again, we'll be hatching out for Easter, and so obviously they'll be going on earlier. So I'll probably get my hatch fix from work, and then I'll be putting my own birds on. Yeah, I reckon March, April time. So we've got a chick check, and we can see a progress of chicks. And of course, I need to hatch out my own meat birds as well. So that sort of time, I reckon. Alternative small holding. So this is relating to integrating your chickens. There's good advice. We let them see each other through a fence after quarantine for a week or so, and then let them free range together. Yeah, so that's the best way to do it. Quarantine them, let them then see each other and vocalize to each other through a barrier, so they can't actually get to each other and scrap. And then when you do introduce them, make sure they've got plenty of room to run away, and make sure the newcomers have space to hide as well, because they've got nowhere to hide, then they will get pecked to death. But if they can just run off and hide under a bush or something, they can come out of their own free will, and it's not so unpleasant for them. And you also have to remember that chickens can individually recognize up to 80 other chickens. So it's, you know, if you put them next to each other, it's not just a group of chickens seeing another group of chickens. Your established flock, as long as you've not got 80, will be able to actually visualize and learn who's who from the new flock. So your obviously the best way is to then split them so they can see each other and start to learn who each other are first before you dump them all in together. Hello Carol, welcome to the chat tonight. You were late, but it doesn't matter. It's just nice to have you here. Susie St James says, if your buck is pygmy, I think you are okay. It's when they use a bigger buck. Okay, so this is relating to pygmy goats having problems when they kid. So we would have to get, if we got pygmy nannies, we would have to get a new buck, because our billy goats are a Toggenburg and a Boa, which are both quite large breeds. So we'd have to get... Sorry, the dogs are going crazy. So yeah, we would have to get a pygmy buck, which, you know, then I just get an extra goat. So that's no bad thing. Alternative small holding says, I don't have a Christmas jumper and I have crack and rum. Is that acceptable? I think that's extremely acceptable to have crack and rum just before Christmas. Yes, I agree. Kara said, I just looked in my beetle bin and they have mealworms in. That's really, really good. I've got lots of mealworms here growing, so that's very good for here as well. And then Mrs. Dig Dig. Hello, Mrs. Dig Dig. Welcome to our live stream tonight. It says, hi there, my chickens are molting. I say molting, they are losing their feathers, but new ones are growing. This has never happened before to my chickens. Is there anything I can do to support them? The main thing is just making sure they have plenty of food, because molting takes a lot of energy. So you can give them more of a higher protein. You could give them some mealworms. You could give them some fermented feed as well, just to boost their immune system. You could put some apple cider vinegar in their water or some crushed garlic. So anything basically to keep them on tip-top form, because growing all those new feathers takes a lot of energy and actually can take quite a lot out of them. So you want to make sure they're in as good health as possible. And I'm sure they probably are in as good health, but it doesn't do any harm just to give them a few extra little bits. So there is a video on my channel about how to make fermented grain. And then, as I say, you can put some ACV, so apple cider vinegar, into their water, or some crushed garlic, both which are good for boosting the immune system and keeping them happy. And obviously in the winter, the cold isn't really a problem for chickens. It's the wet, it's the damp. That's the thing that kind of gets in and causes respiratory issues and stuff. So just make sure they've got plenty of dry bedding, and they're kept in a draft-free place, and they're kept dry-ish. And you can obviously, there's always that hen that is pouring down, she goes and stands in it and looks like a soggy mess afterwards. But yeah, just give them some extra protein in their food and they will be perfectly fine, and they will have brand new beautiful feathers in no time. Danny's Little Farm says, yes, Easter this year is 19th of April, is Good Friday. Yes, I think my goats are due on the 18th, 19th of April. That's when they should start kidding, which is very exciting. Erica has had to go, so thank you for stopping in, Erica. It's nice to see you. Have a Merry Christmas if we don't see you before. Carol says, where do you work? I work at a farm park in Essex, so it's a public farm park. a visitor attraction that people can come into. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's really, really nice in terms of education, and I get to educate people about livestock, where food comes from and stuff like that. But the other side of it is I'm trying to manage the animals and keep all the animals happy and content, and then obviously we have to deal with public as well. But I kind of like that, and I kind of like that education aspect. And everything I do at work, I approach as kind of trying to make people more aware. So with the small animals, it's kind of the best way to... Dogs, come on, calm down. The best way to have pets and keep them healthy and happy. And with the more larger domestic farm domestic animals, it's kind of teaching people about where meat comes from, what the breeding season is like, and things like that, so people have more of an understanding of where their food comes from. And so I do really, really enjoy that aspect. But obviously there are days when anybody who works with public knows that sometimes you just want to get on with the job and not deal with members of the public. And I feel like in the moment there's going to be a pheasant over my... There he is. Elijah is back. As long as you don't start eating my... Can you not start eating my plants? You just going to sit there? I think you might just sit there. So this isn't Eve. This is the male. So Eve is outside in the pheasant coop with her mates. This is Elijah, whose tail you can see now. So that is Elijah. So he runs around the house most of the time causing chaos. Luckily, he does poo occasionally, but we have dogs that eat it. So, so it helps keep things a little bit tidier. And actually, Alternative Small Homes just made a very good point about introducing your chickens. So hidey holes are important, but also little food bowls and water dotted around as well, because top matriarchs of your coop will hog the food and won't necessarily let the newcomers get access to food and water. So if you put several bowls around, then they'll be able to access it more easily. Charlie says, a few weeks ago I put 3 quail eggs under a pigeon. She hatched all 3. Oh wow, that's super cool. I've never even heard of that aspect, doing that. Obviously I've heard of putting quail eggs under chickens, but not under a pigeon. That is really, really cool and a very, very good idea. I like that. Well done. Congrats. And Alyssa says, the solution to most problems is more animals. I wholeheartedly agree. Although sometimes when I'm up in the early hours and it's not even light and it's freezing and I'm trying to feed everything before work, I do wonder why I do it. But then I see them all again later in daylight and I love them. Chris Benici says, what veggies can we grow at this time of year? So you can still grow quite a lot. You just have to realise that actually their growth is going to be slowed down due to the lack of daylight. So you can still put in peas. You can still put in your beans, broad beans. But at this time of the year, especially when it's about to get mega cold, you want to make sure they're kind of in a frost-free place so they can germinate without the risk of being frosted. Obviously, you can do microgreens at all times of year, and you can still do like cut and come again salads on a windowsill. I know some people that are already putting in like radishes and things under cloches, so you could do that. So there's plenty you can still be doing even in these winter months. You might need to just give them a bit of artificial light so you can get stuff started inside and then put it in cold frames and stuff. It depends where in the country you are and obviously how cold it's going to get. And AJ's just made a good point. Yeah, so you could still do your garlic cloves as well. So you could still put garlic cloves in, and don't forget bulbs. You can still put bulbs in. I know everybody goes on. You must put them in autumn, but most places have now got all their Christmas stock in, all your nurseries, which means they're trying to sell off their bulbs really, really cheap. You can still put bulbs in at this time of year. The only thing that might happen is that they won't necessarily flower. They will just grow leaves, but not necessarily flower all the time. But that doesn't matter because it just means that they're going to gain all that energy from those leaves to flower the following year. So definitely, if you've got time over the next couple of days, run out and buy some. He's at it again. Run out and guys, buy some bulbs. Can you get down, please? Thank you. Andrew said, when are you starting to incubate again, and what is the plan for next year's hatching? So Liz asked this a little bit earlier. So I'm probably planning to start my incubating in March, April time. So a little bit later than normal, just because I really don't want chicks in the house again because they just create so much dust. So outside, I will be doing pheasant eggs. Any that Eve lays, I'll be doing some of those. I'll be doing quail because I need to replace some of my older quail with fresher birds that actually can now lay. Many of my older birds are now 4 or 5 years old and they don't lay anymore. So I need to replace them with a few layers. I will be doing the silkies again. Obviously the toasty marshmallow project is probably over now that Barry unfortunately has left us. But I'm going to be putting Bruce in, so I'll do silkies, I'll do Barber Danvers, I'll do Ixworth, and I'll do Frizzles. I probably won't do any ducks, and I probably won't do any more guinea fowl. What's going on with these dogs? Sorry, the pheasant is now in the fireplace, being a fool. Yeah, so that is the plans for hatching it next year. And then also this is back to what you can sow. So alternative small holding says onion seeds are traditionally sown on Boxing Day. So yes, you could definitely do that as well. Susie says, what happened to last winter's budgie with a splayed leg? He is really, really well. Really well. I have to film him for an update. Obviously, I'm never going to breed from him because he's got a splayed leg. And actually, even if he did manage to mate somebody, it'd probably be infertile because he wouldn't be able to hold on properly. But he has done really, really well. He's still a little bit splayed, but he's turned into a beautiful budgie. He's a beautiful boy. And he chats up everybody that goes in there. He's all, whenever there's a female around him, he's loving it and he's cooing up to her. So I will do a little update on him because he's actually, it's kind of sad that he is splayed leg because he is absolutely stunning. But yeah, he's just living out his days with the cockatiels and the budgies. Alternative small holdings. I love how you have doggy distractions, whereas I have wild child and beardy dude distractions. They have no respect for dude. I know they don't. Sard has just, part of the doggy distraction then was because Sard's taken the dogs out for a walk. So they all leapt off the couch. And now I'm just left with Ollie, who you just saw there, jumping up here. There he is. So I'm looking after him for Christmas. So he stayed here. And then I've obviously got this mad pheasant. Susie says, doesn't the pheasant make dust? He does make dust, quite a lot of dust, but because it's just one bird, it's not as much dust as everything was. The other thing with chicks is chicks make a hell of a lot of dust, whatever species they are, whatever breed they are, because obviously they are going through a constant growth pattern. So they've got their down, and they're replacing the down with feathers, and then their juvenile feathers fall out and get replaced with adult feathers, so you've got that constant dust. Whereas with the pheasant, yes, he does make a lot of feather dust, but because he's now molted into his adult feathers, adult plumage, it's not constant, so it's not quite as bad. I do also have the dogs, which stir quite a lot of dust up and put it onto the floor, and then I have a little robotic hoover, which was the best thing I ever bought. Only cost me £110, and I hardly ever have to hoover downstairs anymore because the little robot comes out twice a day and goes around and does it. So I only have to kind of clean surfaces off, which is really, really good. Anybody that has pets, a robotic hoover is a lifesaver, a stress saver, and probably a marriage saver as well. Alternative Small Honey says, do you have I Am Samani? I have one. 3 or 4 years ago, we had a beautiful cockerel, but he, unfortunately, like Barry did, we had him for 1.5 years, and then he just dropped dead. No idea why. But we still have a girl, so we have Onyx. She's a lovely little I Am Samani pullet. She's just down in the layers flock. So we do have her, and then in the future I do plan to try and source another cockerel, and maybe even another couple of hens, and make a little quartet of I Am Samani. But yeah, I do have her, and actually I'll try and highlight her on a vlog or a Small Honey Diaries. I'll try and pinpoint her down the bottom and show you. Deanne Deanna says, I love your Barber Danvers. Do you know if they are similar to other Barbadookles, such as Porcelain's Millflower? I have some, but I'd like to try out Clean Leg Bird. They are very similar. They're basically all Belgian Bantams, hence the Barbu. So they're all kind of a different Belgian Bantam. Obviously, the Barbadookles and stuff have their feathered legs, and the Barber Danvers have the little straight legs. The girls are lovely. The hens are really, really nice. The boys are a little bit feisty, but they're so small, they can't really hurt you. And they're kind of funny when they're running around the garden, so tiny, just all puffed up, pretending to be like big and macho, and they're literally like this big, which I find hysterical. But yeah, they're lovely, and they are very much like Barbadookles. Kirsty, hello from Malta. She says, how many birds have you got? I don't know, Kirsty. That is the honest answer. At the moment, I probably have around 40 to 45 chickens. And then I've got 3 pheasants. And then I've got the quail. I think I've got about 20 quail. And then on top of that, I've obviously got the pet birds. But poultry-wise, around the 50 mark, I think. Alternative Smallholding says, I would be tempted to put our tiny pekin on a robotic hoover. That would be hysterical. I've all seen those videos online of various pets riding robotic hoovers around. I haven't yet tried it because I don't want them to break it. Liz says, oh, it's bad when you don't know how many birds you have. Please don't ask me. Poultry math, exactly. Yeah, I have no clue. Now, see, now I'm running through it in my head. There are 23 in the bottom coop, plus 3 ducks, plus 3 guinea fowls, so that's 29. 6 silky girls, so that's 35. Obviously, we lost Barry. 35. 3... What are we on? Obviously, I've forgotten already. 35? Yeah, 35. 35. 3 Barber Danvers, 35, 36, 38. 2 of Chick Checks, so that's 40. 4 Silky Growers, 44. And then 4 more cockerels, so 48. 48 chickens, guinea fowl, and ducks, plus 3 pheasants, plus 21 quail. There. I can work it out, but on the spot I don't even know. But that's how many birds I've got. Plus the 2 cockatiels and the 6 Chinese painted quail, and I don't actually know how many budgies I have. 10-ish, maybe. 2, 4, 6, 8. No, I've got more than 10. 12? 12. Let's say 12. Because, and also they're all, oh, and I forgot all the aviary birds outside. So plus like 2 diamond doves, 5 Bengalese, and about 30 zebra finches. I don't think I've forgotten anything else. But then obviously there's the dogs, and the cat, and the bunny, and the tortoise, and the African snails, and the list is never ending. Don't tell anybody I've got this much. Sometimes I scare myself when I start listing all the animals I have, and I see why people actually think I'm a weirdo. And a partridge in a pear tree. I know, Liz, it's so bad, isn't it? Yep, and Susie's very right. I didn't count the ducks or the guineas or the finches. So that's where the problem lies. So you think, oh yeah, I've only got this certain amount. And then you start to add everything up and you realise, oh crikey, I've got quite a lot more than that. Alternative Smallholding says, you have a really long garden though. We used to have a similar, but no poultry then, just flowers and veg. Oh, I remember the flowers before the free-range terrors destroyed the garden. I know. That's why I'm quite glad that I have the shed situated where it is, because it creates this kind of natural barrier between the flower part of the garden and the vegetable part of the garden, and where the chickens can come out. The chickens don't tend to come into the flower bed very, very much, and actually when they are out the bottom I tend to put a gate across, or just a piece of netting or something, so they can't come all the way up, because otherwise it would just be destroyed. Kara says, how much does it cost for 1 month feed and bedding? So this is where I'm a bad farmer because I don't know my figures. Feed, I think, comes in about £30 per month. Because it was a lot more. It might be less than that actually. It was a lot more, but I managed to bring it down with the use of a lot of fermented feed. So it is not really bad at all. Bedding is really cheap. So bedding, I use shavings, and I buy pardon me, I buy massive bales of it, which costs about, I think it's £7.50, and a bale tends to last everything bedding wise, the rabbit included, a month. So that's about £7.50 a month. The feed is fairly high, but again, this is one of the problems with being in an urban plot as well. There is limited natural foraging for chickens. So if you have chickens on a farm or on a homestead where you can pasture them, they won't eat or they won't need as much food because they will just go through and find their own stuff. They'll find invertebrates, they'll eat bits of grass and bits of leaves and stuff like that. When you're in an urban environment, they are very limited into what they can find. And so it does mean that your feeding costs rise. So again, I can't wait to get onto the farm and have them all pasture based. Susie asked if the tortoise as well. Yes, Mr. Grumbles is very well. Yeah, he's great. I never lose excitement watching him eat because watching a tortoise eat is just hysterical and cute, and they look so grumpy, but they are so cute at the same time. He's obviously not hibernating because he's tiny, so he's in his tank with his heat lamp. Comes out and wanders around the living room from time to time. The dogs are now used to him, so they don't try and pick him up in their mouths and carry him off anymore, which is also a plus. So yeah, he's doing really well, thank you. Alternative small holding is, how are the neighbours with the roosters? Really good actually. I box my roosters at night, which means I bring them in and they go into cat boxes. So they don't. So in the summer months, for example, when the sun comes up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, they don't start crowing really early. I do have the odd one. So Bruce always crows about 4 a.m. every morning, but because he's in the cat box in the outhouse, I hear it. But actually, if I ever take the dogs out for a walk around the block, I never hear him. So he's kind of well muffled. In the daytime, Barry was the loudest. Sadly, Barry has now departed. The neighbours, I've never had any complaints, touch wood, from the neighbours about the roosters. They kind of just got used to it. And as most of my neighbours actually buy my eggs anyway, I had that conversation back and forth. So I think they'd always tell me if it was getting too loud. Deanna says, about Zygo cactus, I have a pot-bound Christmas cacti that was blooming. The buds got dry. If they fall off, what will I need to do again to get it blooming again? So they do only tend to flower once a year at that Christmas cacti time. So if they do fall off, you will probably have to just wait until next Christmas to force it back into bud. Because although it hasn't actually flowered, it's produced the buds once. So it's in the plant's biological sort of sense, mind, whatever you want to call it, it thinks it's flowered. So once they all drop off, they do tend to stay off until the following year. So you probably find it won't bud until next October, November time, getting ready for flowering. But obviously you can take cuttings from it all year round. You can split it and make it into many more plants. So that's probably the best thing. I would say if it's pot bound, I would repot it, cut a load of foliage off and make new babies. I've got the babies that I made a little while ago here, and you can see they've all started to put roots out. So these will soon be potted into their own pots. So I would do that. And then look forward to multiple blooms next year. Charlie says, what do you feed your quail? I feed them layers pellets because that's what I buy in. You can buy quail pellets, you can buy game pellets. They're kind of a mix between, ideally you want to give them like a few invertebrates, so mealworms and stuff, and kind of a game pellet mix. But obviously you don't want to be buying, if you're buying chicken feed already, there's no point then buying game feed as well. If you just have quail, you could just buy them game feed. So mine eat layers pellets, greens, and mealworms. And Liz says her chickens haven't read that book about less food when they free range. Well, maybe that's, in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. I also do limit food because I do find that layers pellets, no matter how full they are, they will keep eating them. They will gorge. Here he is, he's back again. Come on, down please. they will just gorge until there's no food left and they're feeling really, really fat. With fermented feed, I do find that they will eat fermented feed until they're full and then they will stop, which is always a good thing. Carol asks, where do I get my feed from? I get my feed from a local farm shop. So I used to buy bags extortionate price online. I've now found a local livestock feed shop and I buy from there. Right guys, I am going to wrap it up because it's just on 11. It has been a blast catching up with you. Thank you all so much for stopping in. It's been really, really fun. Have a fantastic Christmas. I am going to try and keep up with the updates on the channel, smallholding diaries. I will try and do some more farm vlogs and some more vlogging, and then I will try and do some more live streams, of course, because I love catching up with you guys. So we'll keep the live streams to the Saturdays, but I may do them a little bit warmer, sorry, I'm getting confused. I will try and do them a little bit earlier perhaps. Susie says, if you're going to do more streams, you need a cup heater. I know, I really do, because this has gone almost stone cold now. But thank you so much. Thank you, Liz, for helping me out with the moderation. And I will see you guys all very, very soon. Have a fantastic Christmas if I don't see you before. If you are on Facebook, you can come across to Brimwood Farm's community group, so you can obviously see stuff throughout the week before we have the live streams and the videos and things. But I will speak to you all soon, and thank you. Bye-bye.